Hello and welcome to Ethereum Classic Community Call number 51. Today is Friday, May 1st, 2026. This is a community call. It's an open voice chat to discuss Ethereum Classic. Everyone is welcome. The call will be published on YouTube. We kindly ask that discussion stays focused on ideas rather than individuals, and let's keep it classy. The next call is scheduled for the 15th of May. Join us in the green room 1 hour before the call for an unrecorded hangout. Same time, same place. Find past episodes, transcripts, subscribe to the calendar, and more at cc.ethereumclassic.org. The last call covered a lot of philosophical ground, and this week we'll catch up on some more future ideas, exploring the ETC space with a guest that was on some previous calls. So why don't we kick things off with introductions? Let's say first hello to Justin for joining us again.
What's going on, guys? I'm just outside walking, enjoying the weather. Hope you guys are nice.
Yeah, all good here. Thanks, Justin. Codaholic?
Yes. Hey. Hi, yeah, it's me, Codaholic. I'm building in Ethereum Classic, building log trees and working on quantum hardening research and implementation. Nice to meet you all again.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us again, and looking forward to our discussion about your topics that you're bringing. So we've had a pretty quiet couple of weeks, at least publicly. That doesn't mean nothing's been happening behind the scenes, but in terms of updates from the request corner, we had basically not much happening apart from one PR on Core Geth, which is a bit of a blast from the past. So we had a pull request created by Ankoff, Alex, who was part of the ETC community, maybe still is, but was definitely more active in like 2019, I believe. And the pull request is implementing ECIP 1049, which is a SHA-3 hashing algorithm that we talked about in length several years ago. So interesting to see this pull request happen. There's no description or comment provided, but if he's listening to this, it'd be great to see what he's thinking. Jump on the next call. And I think the SHA-3 debate kind of fizzled out and was withdrawn, but if there's still interest in it, it'd be good to continue that discussion. So PR 698, adding SHA-3 KECAC to Ethereum Classic. We have an update from the Olympia side, which is that ETC Grants DAO and Antpool have both signed Nolympia.dev, which is the petition against Nolympia. So this is quite a big deal because these are two major players, Antpool being a large hash rate mining pool and ETC Grants DAO being like currently the primary funder of activity on ETC. So at least in terms of giving out grants. So yeah, this is formally registering opposition to the Olympia Treasury proposal, and these significant stakeholders are basically signaling their opposition to it. So this further solidifies the reality that Olympia is unlikely to be a smooth transition, and it's definitely considered contentious at this point. So how does this change the calculus of a chain split? And exchange outreach is becoming more or less essential. Like, Olympia guys, if you're listening, it'd be great to figure out what we should do next as a community. There's still silence from their part. But it's increasingly looking like we need to coordinate something to mitigate the effects of a chain split, if that's what's going to happen. Okay. I think we can jump straight into the discussion today, which is with Codaholic. Codaholic, why don't you just lay out what you plan to talk about, and we can just go by there.
Sure. Yeah. So I will be as brief as possible so as to not monopolize the time. But long story short, I um, saw that there was this conversation around Olympia and very interesting conversation around how there could possibly be a base fee and have this base fee fund useful development in core Etsy. And then I observed that there was some contention around the rollout of this disagreement in the community, and I decided to create a foil to it. So, like, if you don't mind, I'll share my screen briefly to show you some things. So let me find share screen button. Okay, so I created this foil. Let me find the tab. Here we are. And it's called Elysium, and what you'll find in the contents of these ECIP drafts discussion is just some drafts that are basically saying the same thing that Olympia is saying, with the difference being that the actual change that I would be proposing from a core code point of view is way less code to just route the base fee by percentages into some smart contracts. And if you were to compare the core geth delta code delta that I have as a draft with what Olympia has as a draft, you would find that they have way more code changes that they're performing even on their client. But what is the purpose of Elysium? Like, why would I create a foil? And it's very simple. The argument I'm making is, if there would be an effort to have a base fee coming from the blockchain itself as a protocol change, then it should be driving utility, where utility means that the chain is driving useful applications, which will incentivize users to have an interest in using those applications, and thereby the tokens that are powering those applications. So in the context of Elysium, you can see here I have this web version of the paper too, or ECIPs, where it'll describe in a higher detail what is the point of this, and like in what way is Elysium providing that utility by comparison with Olympia if Elysium was to get the same base fee. And this page is just showing some examples where if you have a system that is, as this photo shows, giving somebody a reward, in this case a nut, for telling the system that they did something like planting a tree or taking care of a tree, what you could do is you could have a model where the result of all of those actions is represented here with this aggregate function. And
Okay.
if all of those actions are what you can consider to be like from the set of positive actions, then one of the implications of that is that you could have the base fee reward those users, and thereby it would be like a bootstrapping function to drive further usage and adoption. So to go along with Elysium, like Elysium is powered by something called log trees, which is powered by my algorithm called logn. And I want to just do a brief demo. So like this is log trees. It's a map application where the intention is to say that as people perform these activities like planting trees or taking care of themselves or the environment, it'll start to build up that state where, because of these actions, you can assign a measurable value to say that efficiency was obtained. And this mathematic is detailed in my white paper and in my paper on logn, but I just want to do a brief demo. So like earlier today, I made this video here where it's a video where I'm planting my my first ever Korean lilac, and it's just like a video of me enjoying the planting process for my social media. So what Logtrees does is it provides you with like this possibility to do what is called ultralinking, where right now I'm going to just tell Logtrees that I planted this Korean lilac at this link, which is just my existing link already. And then if I plant it with Web3 and then I pay some Ethereum cost in this case, which is just the electricity cost to inscribe this plant into the record and to be committed to it. In this case, it's Ethereum, but it will also support Ethereum Classic. I will perform this planting, and it'll write the record into the tree map, which is the data model that is being aggregated as people will use this system. And once this is completed as a transaction, there we go. What it does is it rewards you with some experience points. It rewards you with some commentary. And in a minute or two, like this value here will increment. It's processing on the back end, and it's pretty slow because it's just a bare bones server that I use. But the numbers will increment as users submit those events, and you will also see this reflected in your nursery. So as you perform actions, your imputables is what they're called. They will either thrive or wither, and you can even have some for like eating healthy. So you can see it's been a while since I logged a healthy meal. So this is a withered state. But the point of this is to say, once users perform these actions, they will have these beautiful representations of what exists on the chain. And because of like what the nature of Elysium is it's designed to be immutable as to always exist. And because these actions are from the set of log-nable or loggable actions, all of them have a mathematic associated with them. So here I'll just show you real briefly in the white paper. All of these actions have some measured basis in dollars or any fiat currency, where you could say that if users are incentivized to continue doing these actions, and we can incentivize them with this system, with this blockchain, there is a certain amount of reward that can be given to them. So this is where the base fee would be used as a bootstrapping function to drive further usage of this. And one might say, okay, well, how does that not become an Ouroboros, where you have a bootstrapping, but where does that go? Well, one of the things that's detailed in this really long white paper is the implications for carbon negative compute. In fact, that is the name of the white paper. It's carbon negative blockchains via log trees. So TLDR is you perform these registrations, and users will be incentivized to do it because they'll build up their nursery of beautiful imputables. And these imputables will have in-game functions through something called derivables, where you'll be able to like even zoom in really close to where you are. If you wanted to have like, you can already see I'm starting to implement an inventory, and there are intended mini games to incentivize people from point of view of like having them want to play around with this and use it from a mobile point of view, to be clear. But I know that was a lot, so I didn't prepare any of this. I just jumped right in. So if you want me to talk about any of this in particular, by all means. Otherwise, this was just a brief example of, this is an application that the data model is based on the blockchain, in this case, Ethereum Classic and Ethereum. It's deployed to both. And if it's provable that this can generate impetus in a person to perform these activities, which it will, and it would, and I have some data already from a small sample size, then this is a strong economic justification for Ethereum Classic. Like, this will give Ethereum Classic primacy over every other chain from a valuation point of view, if you project the math out, at least. And this is a lot to unpack. I'll be in the server. Any questions at all of any kind, please feel free to ask me in the server, or you can ask me on YouTube or anywhere, and happy to answer them. But yep, that was like my little. Oh, did I stop? Oh, okay. Thankfully, I'm still sharing. So that was what I wanted to show you. So I'll stop sharing unless you want me to reshare and go over any of that again.
Okay, thank you for the demo. It looks very appealing visually, and yeah, it's definitely something that I think I've been thinking about as well, actually. A similar kind of system with incentivizations for performing actions, basically, and using a blockchain to reward people for doing stuff, I think is a very it's going to be a large part of how people organize in future in general.
There's a sincere action. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Nice.
what I really like
But
about it is that it's like it curates itself, because the only actions which have that effect are defined in the white paper categorically, and meaning an action has to be from the set of loggable actions that are in the set of log n actions. And what all that means is that they are non-zero sum actions fundamentally. So if you wanted to model this mathematically, you could or philosophically, you could approach it from a point of view of patternism as a philosophy. But basically, nobody loses from, like somebody taking care of a plant in their backyard or something, or cleaning up trash or tagging trash is one of the components of this. Like nobody
So
loses anything, so it improves the
my
system
question,
fundamentally.
before I jump into some technical stuff, Justin, did you want to jump in?
no, I didn't mean to be down. I don't mean to be down or anything like that. But if there was like a forest fire, let's say, like how would you be able, like, is there ways to, how would you monitor that? And you know,
That's a very good question. I think that if there was a forest fire and somebody's trees were being used for this system, that would suck, because it would represent that they lost the basis for getting their rewards. But this is something that would be just like a feature to implement, where maybe we would say, hey, like your forest burned down. Well, log the
right,
result of the forest burning down and then rebuild.
Yeah. I guess that's
right,
closely
right.
related to my first question, which is how do you validate the actions that are actually performed
Mm.
on chain?
Mhm. Mhm. That's a fantastic question, and that's also one of the questions I was recently asked at like the symposium where I presented this at, and in some side channels, and including when I submitted my paper on login. It's a subset of the white paper. I submitted that to a journal for review, and that was also one of the questions that I got back. But what I can say about this is that I have multiple algorithmic basis by which this verification will happen on the back end. And I mean, one of them that I can give you is like the geo positioning of your phone relative to other people who have this system on their phone as well that they're using, will enable a kind of validation in person as people engage in these activities together. So you have like a network effect that makes it way harder to fib or to outright lie about these types of things, because to move beyond the bounding functions on rewards to prevent like Sybil attacks or other types of attacks will require that users begin to engage with those verification layers that are being built. But yes, this needs to have like a strong verification background, so that on the back end you cannot have a Sybil attack or somebody just trying
Yeah.
to manipulate the system. But there are multiple ways. This is one of the my white paper is being distilled into multiple papers that I'm submitting. This is the next paper that I'm going to be submitting, is what are the verification strategies that I'm using. There's going to be 2, maybe 3 defined in this paper, but my goal with this is not to reach like 100% confidence, because I don't think that's really possible. But even if it is, what I've observed is that after a certain amount of measurement, like from a system point of view, you could end up spending more resource or energy to do a deeper probing of something than you get back. So like, I'm not going to say like I will justify a fraud or anything like that, but just to say that my intention with these verification layers that I'm implementing is going to be to reach like 95% or like some like 5 nines equivalent of reliability for this.
Cool. I sent a link in the chat, which is a presentation about an idea that's somewhat related to this that I'm planning to build actually. And I want to like say that because we have such overlap and you've already brought some new ideas to the table, I'm thinking like we could potentially collaborate on this build out of something that is essentially the same idea, just we have slightly different, like my conclusion was that the objective verification step is really difficult and consuming a lot of gas if you can do stuff like the off-chain verification of GPS and that kind of stuff. So I concluded that the validation step could just be done by people that you define in the system to be validators of certain actions, and they approve or deny that certain actions have taken place. They get rewarded for doing so, so they're incentivized to participate, and they are separate from the people doing the actual actions. So there's like this three-way split of responsibilities where you have the funding, the validating, and the action taking as different entities that are kind of checks and balances between them. And this means that you
I
don't
like
need
it.
to,
I love it.
yeah, you can't like, you can, the benefit is you can apply it to anything. Like it's a general approach, so you don't need to like limit it just to planting trees using geographic validation and relying on the cryptography there. But you can apply it to things like making a tweet or joining a community call or something like that, or planting a tree, which I think is also a good idea. And
Yeah,
I like
and in my case, oh, yep, sorry, go ahead.
Yep. I really like the idea of the nursery, or the basically it's kind of like streak management, where for each different type of contribution, you're incentivized to continue doing it, which I think is a
Yes.
nice mechanism.
Yes, and the intention with the nursery is that the data model is super simple, or intended to be super simple, and I will provide the means so that anybody will always have their nursery with them, even if it's outside of this specific tool or platform, because that's the whole point of like ultra linking, is to say, hey, don't bother to give me your photo or your video unless you really want to. Like I have that capability too, to make it a more fun user experience perhaps, but rather give
Could you
me your
explain
links that you
what an
already have.
ultralink? What's an
Yeah,
ultralink?
Ultralink is just what I'm calling the, like for example, you have hyperlinking, which is like a construct of the web where you give somebody a link to something, and the hyperlink is then a very powerful way to share information. So this is one of the early concepts of the web. What I'm calling an ultralink is to just say it's a link where it's pointing to one of your own social medias, like one of your own social media posts. It could be TikTok, YouTube, X, anything, and it's wrapping it inside of a function that
Interesting.
measures it and drives value. And that function is just this registration inside of log trees, because the result of that is going to be another link which points to the registration and streak management and things of this nature. And the over time, the measured result of whether or not you're achieving what you're setting out to achieve.
Cool.
So that is what I'm
If
calling
you
an ultralink.
Right, do you see the link that I sent in the chat? If you open that and
Yes.
jump to the 15 minute 14 seconds mark, a lot of this is basically exactly the same, but I'm not calling it an ultralink, but it's you're like embedding these real world attestations of activity into the blockchain and then giving it a value.
Yes, and for me, I'm calling it like laser tag, because for a lot of these components or like actions that are performable, being that they're tied onto a map, where like the intention is to
Yeah.
have games that exist on the map. I'll be able to. Oh, sorry, I got distracted. What was I just mentioning about
Laser tag.
we were talking about? Oh yeah, laser tag. Yeah. So I'm calling it laser tag because one of the verification strategies is intended to be fun, to have also, as you call them, validators, to have people who are validators just play laser tag with each other to verify either that they are truthful or to catch somebody in the act of like fibbing. But this is intended to be a fun platform primarily. So I am thinking about it from a point of view of how to have it be like a positive reinforcement versus something punitive.
Like gamification.
Gamification, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And
If you
but
can,
I'm very
if
excited
you can
about
show
yours.
that someone, I mean, yeah, these are very similar ideas and come from completely different, like, we had no prior conversations about them, but they're almost like, apart from the naming, they're really similar. So I think this is an awesome opportunity to collaborate on
Yes,
building something so we don't like copy each other's work or duplicate work. Copying is fine, but
Yes.
um,
Yeah, and in the case of how this all relates back to Ethereum Classic, then I mean I think that's pretty obvious, but very excited because this just for me at least, this just shows that Elysium is the right direction to say, hey, if there is going to be a base fee, then let the base fee bootstrap all of this, or let's not have a base
right.
fee and instead just leverage the power of the community to say, yo, we got this grant money, or that it's possible to raise some for that bootstrapping, and then we don't need a base fee. We don't need to have like a risk to the Ethereum Classic internals, if it could be called a risk. I don't know if it can or can't yet, because
Yeah,
I guess that's complicated, but you know what I mean. I guess I'm just saying that from my
I
point
do.
of view, if there is going to be a base fee, then we're already aligned on how can we generate utility for Ethereum Classic, uh, with
Right.
you're calling it nourishment. I like that, nourishment.
Well, this
That's
is like
amazing.
it's an old name. I think it might need a new, catchier thing, but that was the old uh,
No, nourishment's awesome
double
because
meaning.
you're nourished. Yeah, double meaning. You're nourishing yourself and you're minting.
Yeah, and then it could evolve to
Uh,
flourishment. But the the thing, yeah, the key point that you just mentioned that I think is really important is by having this system, you are presenting alternatives to where the base fee could go. And Olympia, as the only place, is a presupposition that needs to be challenged. That's one thing.
yes,
As in, like, why should it go to this undefined DAO as opposed to a system like Elysium?
yes,
And
because we could
that question
totally
needs
build it
to
that
be
way.
answered. Right,
Yeah, we
right.
could totally build it so that we like the base fee really does get routed into. I mean, other people have mentioned it like smart contracts or something that is more hands off. But
Yep.
I mean, I think if an LLC or like an entity were to collect the base fee, then maybe it's not into a smart
Mhm.
contract, but at least it would be an entity that has something like nourishment or log trees to go along with
Right,
it, and to be like to have something to show to the community and say like, hey, we actually care about Ethereum beyond the current token value. Like, how can we drive user adoption of useful stuff, or things that are useful
right.
and that people like, that are beautiful and fun, because then the token
Exactly.
value in the future will go up anyway. You know, like it doesn't matter if it's now or 5 years. Who cares? Because I'm trying to build for like the next 1,000 years or million years. You know.
Totally. And you can have different pools of things of actions that are incentivized. So if you're a I've described them as benefactors in the nourishment system, but someone that wants to donate and increase the value of ETC or any project really, but they can decide themselves how to allocate. And the validators that validate are incentivized to behave well because then they get those donations. And downstream, the actual actions that have the largest amount of funds available will be the ones that will be incentivized the most. But that's not like leaving certain things out. Maybe it's just a proportion. Like
Mm-hmm.
80% is to planting trees, and then 20% goes to some other net negative thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just
What
limited to one benefactor either. Like you have
mm-hmm.
a set of validators that are validating whether someone attends an event, and if that event has a bunch of different sponsors, then they can donate to this fund in order to incentivize people to go to the event specifically.
Nice. Yeah, I like that, because the way that I'm doing this is based on taking existing data that is a baseline representation of the costs of the vices that gave me the set of actions that are part of the loggable login actions, and
Mm-hmm.
using data that exists to say this is worth this much, this is worth this much. So it's not so much
Mm-hmm.
about somebody incentivizing as much as saying on the existing math, X has a certain cost in the future, and therefore with modern monetary theory and with the fiat currencies that we have, not just the dollar, there's other ones that are extremely
Mm.
powerful. but the dollar absolutely is a very powerful currency as the reserve currency of the planet. It's an earned status because, for example, the USA rebuilt the world more than once after World War One, World War Two. This is one of the reasons why we have the reserve currency. But because of the power of this, we can say that we don't need to proactively incentivize something for log n. We can just say, what is it actually worth today if we were to incentivize it? Because then it's not arbitrary. Then it's based on the actual value of things. And when approaching it that way, it produces the set of actions which are non-zero sum, meaning nobody loses anything or gets adversely affected. It is a more constrained set of actions than in your model, I think, perhaps, where like you can define the incentive to, if I understood it correctly, or if that's what you're hoping for. But I think your model is also very powerful for the next step, where there are some things that I would want to incentivize, like your example with the attending a conference or attending a call or something. Those are very good things to incentivize, but the log n itself just doesn't have the math to be able to do that, because it's a very powerful granular accounting tool, effectively, but just not just for everything, just for like a very constrained set of things. So I would love to work with you more and talk with you more about this.
Cool. Could you step me through the aggregation function?
Sure. So as users use this platform, we could say users of size n users, they submit their logins, and these are just events. They're objects that are written to the blockchain. And at any point in time, the aggregate is called the tree map. I'm calling it the log trees tree map. It's just the sum total of all of the events. So to represent it as an object, it would just be a list of objects. So if you were to, I'm going to make it possible for any user to just go to my repo on GitHub and download the open source event scraper for this, so that you can have the entire tree map on your machine if you want. But it's really just going to be the data dump from the blockchain of all of the events that were written to it. So the aggregate function at that point is just to say it was actually reflected on the map, because it's an actual map too, where you can see the total state of all the actions contributed. And you can see this as a tally, like all the numbers tallied up to say like this many trees total, or this many trees per center, where a center is something like a state or a province of a country that doesn't have states. But yes, that it's a very simple function, or like a very simple model of the world, to say like what is the total number of log n's that happened or that exist now at this point in time.
Okay.
And it's just querying a function on the smart contract to say like give me the representation, which is from a smart contract design point of view is I guess this is something that's worth bringing up is the privacy aspect of this, because you might not as a user want all of the log n actions to be public or known to other users. Maybe you just want to perform them publicly or privately and still get the reward. And there are strategies for this, but because of the data model, what the data model is doing, and when you query it, is it'll just give you obfuscated counts, and there will be a wallet address or an identifier which is specific to log trees. But what this enables is you get the immutability benefits of the blockchain without the user's specific information being directly accessible. You need log trees to have a translation layer, but it's still extremely valuable for the rewards function, because the immutable nature of the registration and the electricity costs associated with it, these are like a curation on people just submitting things for no reason. So even if you don't know who's in the tree map, the fact that there is a tree map is all that really matters for the purpose of the aggregate, or like obtaining the aggregate function, or seeing what is the aggregate state. But have I answered your question about the aggregate function, or were you hoping for something else?
I think I understand it. The two unanswered questions would be, what is it used for other than just a metric? Is it actually used
The tree map?
to like divide rewards or something like that? Or is it just like to see how performant the system is over time? Like it's a number that goes up that shows that it's healthy. And
It's
then the second
definitely
question,
both. Mhm. Oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah. The second question would be like, how does this aggregation actually technically happen? Is it an accumulator or is it like you query and dynamically generate an aggregation?
hmm Yeah, great questions. Okay, so first question was about like what is the point about, or what is the point behind the tree map? Is it just to have something that goes up in value? Um, I think it's nice that it goes up in value. I think it's beautiful. Like if you have a planet and you can get to the point where you've logged or tagged all of the trees on the planet and you're able to see their health, their status, but not just trees, but anything that is in the set of loggable actions in login. That's really really cool and beautiful. Like I think even it's not just that, but if it was even just that, I think there'd be plenty of people who would want to use it. But there are very interesting emergent properties from having that kind of data, because if you superimpose the registrations onto a map, you can get all kinds of like higher order levels of information about many different things. So one of the intentions is to say, hey, we should have a very high quality data layer that we can then perhaps query or build additional things on top of it. One of the things that is buildable in this way would be something called like a light map. So you would be able to see where are there a lot of good things happening, where are there not a lot of good things happening, and then that could apprise people who are in charge of allocating resources. But there's so many applications that are possible, and my intention with it is I have a couple of intentions. One is to have it be beautiful. Two is to have it always exist, so that if you are one of the people who's building up the tree map, you could just enjoy the fact that you're always building it up. You can look on your phone and see your nursery. In whatever iteration, maybe you'll implement your own UI around the data model if you want, or like just rely on me to make the most beautiful one, because that's my goal. But it's also intending to attach people to the concept of there being a very bigger than you data structure that represents all of the good that is happening. Certainly, you can add intelligence to this too, but beyond that, once there's a big enough aggregate, my personal goal with it, beyond making it beautiful and fun and sentimental, is to really just drive home the idea to at a governance level, or for like state fair, to say that the economic prospect that is obtained is a very positive one. And this is a direct response to like any anxieties people might have around AI displacing labor, or
Right.
even things like deficits affecting a nation state's ability to like feed its people or something like that. Recently in the U.S., we had a very funny. Well, it wasn't all funny, but we had a very interesting experience with Elon Musk and Doge. I don't know if you're aware of this, but basically, we have this entrepreneur who got some governance authority, and his entire spiel was to say, how can we reduce government inefficiency? But what that ended up turning into was like gutting a lot of programs that even his side didn't really want to go in that direction. And I was observing all of this, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Because the USA is not only not broke, we're extremely wealthy, and not just the USA. And the USD is a extremely powerful fiat currency, because you don't go through two world wars and the black swan of COVID and the Great Recession and provide liquidity to the entire planet without having like a very solid logistics system, very solid finance system. So it's a proven currency. And when I was observing the fact that like any nation state would have a problem with overloadedness of debts and things like this, I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. So I would want this tree map to just be a ever growing representation of a continuity, because the economic implication is that on modern monetary theory and with the fiat currency that we have, the reserve currency of the USD. And I would also say at this point, yuan and yen are definitely also reserve currencies in my book, because I mean, in the case of the pandemic, I think it was only a few years ago, so people remember it very well how it was. Like there was like no stuff on the shelves in some cases. People were hoarding toilet paper. And if it wasn't for the US dollar, but also the yuan, I think the world would have collapsed because of just lack of impetus to generate forward motion economically. But because of these tools and because of the tree map, we will be able to avoid this problem in the future. We will be able to say, hey, there's a very like strong theoretical mathematical underpinning to say like these fiat currencies, they're not beholden to scarcity in the same mindset because of modern monetary theory, which drives impetus for us being people, or us on this call being people that are trying to build interesting blockchain applications or core blockchains. It drives impetus because we can identify bootstrapping functions that will prevent us from ever having a situation where like a very huge entrepreneur with like Doge can potentially like accidentally fire the nuclear safety experts, which actually did happen. They were moving so fast that they fired some nuclear safety experts and they had to scramble over the weekend to rehire them. And that was pretty ridiculous. Or even just like commentaries they were making about things like social security income, which in the United States is like a retirement benefit that basically everybody pays into, and you get, if you actually look at the math behind it, it's a pretty sound program, but because of Doge and just like a lot of like fear mongering about the nation states financing and just like a lot of fixation on a model of scarcity that is really like very ancient from like 100 years ago or 200 years ago. I just want to avoid that. So that's my real hope with the tree map, is to just build it up and say, hey, we can avoid that, and basically everybody will have a prospect or a path forward. The one last thing I want to say about it is on a practical, like to answer your question practically, like what does it actually achieve? If everything I just said happens, what is the actual practical result for a person? Well, this is defined in my white paper, but basically to point to like Sam Altman, for example, who has his paper on universal basic income and the marginal costs of business going down to zero and how that can create a UBI. Well, this is an attempt to produce what I'm calling a productive universal basic income. So it's like the predecessor to that, because I think that's like more in the future. And I think that precedes Elon Musk's universal high income. But to get to those two things is productive universal basic income, where if log n can scale, then I believe that this will basically facilitate like a college lifestyle for anybody who is seeking to be a productive person.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think there's so many areas where blockchains can allow more exotic incentivization strategies, and basically the legacy system that you've just described is kind of clunky now, and as you say, not necessarily yielding the results that everyone would like. And by experimenting in the blockchain space, we can really like find these more reliable strategies, not just for determining how things should be spent, but also like defining the relationship between the flows of incentivization, I guess. Like how do we not just incentivize one-off things, but long-term commitments, like you have already like looked at with the streaks, and
Yes,
maybe even longer-term things, like the whole idea of having a contract with an employer made sense when everyone was going to an office, but now everyone's like online, maybe working not in one place, maybe going to different countries. Maybe with AI, people have multiple projects. Maybe they're not thinking about, oh, I'm going to spend my entire week doing this one thing. I want to be incentivized to do this thing that I find interesting, or that thing temporarily. and still be able to be rewarded for doing so. And you can kind of granularize and tokenize your tasks and incentivize work to happen in a way that's much more, I guess, fungible, instead of having like a big bar or a block of work time. You could then just work on what you think is going to provide value.
Yes, and on the subject of providing value, as I described in my white paper, there's like a trifold or threefold basis by which there could be a bootstrapping function obtained even just with fiat currency for this. Meaning, this is why I say that Elysium doesn't actually require a base fee. It's just, it exists as a foil to Olympia to ensure that if Olympia gets a base fee, that it's done correctly. But basically, because of the way that this does generate value, if users are successfully incentivized, it reduces nation costs in the future, because all of the loggable actions directly improve parameters either in people's bodies or in the system. And this is all based on what is the actual quantified cost of these things up until this point in time on a dollar basis. So that's extremely powerful, because then you could say that this is like a justified, I call it a justified print event for fiat currency. It's the equivalent of a town or a city raising money to build a bridge that will be productive economically, very productive even.
Right.
But it takes some time to build the bridge. So this is the equivalent of this. But it is based on the value that.
There's a direct analogy with ETC whales. Basically, for them, they have this like, if you're sitting on a lot of ETC, the amount of value that you get from giving a small portion of that to developers massively outweighs the actual cost of it. Because like, percentage wise, if the price of ETC goes up twice, then you've made way more than the cost of actually hiring that developer. So the problem is there's no like mechanism to delegate those kind of tasks to people. And I think that's what we can solve here by creating this smaller scale incentivization system that ETC grants DAO are trying to do, but requires like a lot of effort and can only really fund large projects because of that. So like, basically this, as you say, justified print would be a whale giving some ETC to this protocol in return for increasing the value of ETC. And that makes everyone happy.
Yes, and it can also be a nation state deciding to allocate fiat currency as well. I think it's going to be the best result to facilitate all of them. Like, I'm not going to say only one, because I think they're all amazing. But because of that,
sorry, nation states, while I'm on this, while you're mentioning that point, there's this kind of trick that a nation state could play where they buy a bunch of ETC and then they print a bunch of money to buy some more ETC, which increases the actual value that they're holding. And they're probably doing this already with Bitcoin. But if you can not just buy the ETC, but also increase its in value by injecting incentives for people to build on it, then it's like, it's a better vehicle, I guess, where like on the one hand, you could just buy ETC and you increase the demand slightly relative to its overall net worth, its overall market cap by, you're just buying whatever's on sale in the market and that bumps the price slightly. Or you could like 50-50 buy ETC, but also spend the rest to actually increase the value of ETC fundamentally. And that's likely to have like a much higher return of investment than just buying ETC on its own.
Agreed. And that's exactly how I think about it too. And with respect to fiat currency here being used to provide any bootstrapping, it would not be like the former thing that you mentioned, except maybe only slightly, because it's based on modern monetary theory that we've had in play for over 100 years now. And what all this means is that if this is really like building a bridge, then my model, which is described in the white paper, allows a nation state to obtain that increasing token value while also driving down their own debts. And this is because of the threefold approach, where somebody in this case being a government would put money in to bootstrap the reward mechanism, and what they would get would be larger than that because of log n, which is to say a lot of things that were already being incentivized in the past are actually more productive than people realized. And we can have like a powerful accounting tool to just say, hey, like all of this stuff that we already did was actually more valuable than we thought. So let's enjoy some additional money. And I don't think that's a bad thing to say for a government, because if it's actual, like if the math is not lying, which it's not, then it's a nice windfall where you can reward people and you can pay down your local debts. So that's extremely powerful.
Yeah. Another interesting mechanism, just thinking out loud here, is to incentivize adoption. You could have like tail end mechanisms where you get rewarded for the work you do, but you also then get like a cut of all future rewards, like a diminishing amount of future rewards. So basically, the earlier you adopt, the more long-term value you kind of lock in every future distribution. So there's tons of like exotic, cool things that we could try and figure out to incentivize participation in this. And I look forward to future discussions about these mechanisms, because I think we're sharing a lot of the same thoughts in terms of solutions. And I think that we are on the right track for like how funding should actually happen, and actually defining something that could work, that's within the realm of feasibility with small teams and small projects like ETC. And it doesn't rely on like a voting mechanism that a DAO would have. And I think that provides some additional benefits.
I agree. I'm very excited.
Yeah, cool. We should be, I'll DM you after this call and let you know what my current plans are. And hopefully we can work together on something.
Yeah, I think I'm very much into Etsy. I think I would love to see Etsy be the prime blockchain for many things. I think it can and it will. So I would love to work with you on this and get really close to how does this make Etsy grow and more durable.
Yeah.
As a main concern for me too. So yeah, it's more Etsy. It's more of login. It's more of nourishment. So I'm starting to perceive that Etsy is it's like one of those gifts that keeps on giving. So if we can make Etsy better while also shipping really cool stuff like this, that's a win-win.
Right. And of course, being on-chain deployed to Etsy gets us more interest in the protocol itself as well. So yeah, looking forward to this. And thank you for sharing the thoughts and for joining this call. We are approaching the 1 hour mark, and that's our typical cut off. If there's any other topics people would like to talk about before we wrap up, then please do mention.
I just wanted to say thank you very much to you, to Justin. Awesome talking with you guys as always, and really excited for everybody who's listening. I am super excited about Etsy, super excited about Logtrees, super excited about Istora and the entire community. And oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, Logtrees is version pre-alpha. So as you saw in the demo, like it's functional, it's working, but it's very early, so it's going to rapidly improve. I build for a living, and this means that I work a lot, but I'm going to rapidly improve it. So it's already been rapidly improving, and you'll see more demo videos and all that on the YouTube channel. But just a heads up, if anybody ever tinkers with it and you see some bugs, that's kind of expected since it's pre-alpha. But really excited for all of you, and I'll be around in the server, in the Discord server, in both of them. So please feel free to ask me any questions.
All right, thanks. And if people are listening to this call, how can they find more information?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. You can contact me at danny@logtrees.com, and my link to my Twitter username is Searsbell. So I will follow up with a message on the video when it gets uploaded with the links to these.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, it's been a very interesting episode. A bit different than normal. It's nice to have these like very creative things to talk about once in a while. And yeah, hope to see you all next time. The next call is in 2 weeks on the 15th of May. You can join us, find us in the same place, same time. And until then, yeah, hope you have a good couple of weeks. Stay safe, keep it classy, take care, and goodbye. All right.